When I was at university, my favourite perfume was Poison. It made me feel drop-dead gorgeous. It was this sumptuous mix of fruit and spices, like Christmas markets and warm mince pies in a bottle. For me, fragrances evoke memories. Scented gel pens coloured my childhood. Who else collected the entire set only to find that they all just smelt of sweet? My teenage years were awash with shower gels and their glorious array of aromas. Tropical paradise, Saharan sands, banana bonanza, you know the sort of thing. I defied my mum, who had always been wary of overly scented products on certain areas of your skin. We all know where they are. Nowadays, I'm that person you probably run into regularly, or perhaps you yourself are one of my kind too. We are the ones loitering in the scented candle aisle, inhaling every single different smell one at a time, terrified that we might overlook a life-changing odour. Trying to achieve that drop-dead gorgeousness, I had marinated myself in Poison, the perfume, and was now sitting in a coffee shop, nervously breathing in overpowering amounts of fragrant pheromones. Yes, I was here to attract a mate. My strategy was to arrive early, so that I had established my territory, and he had to seek me out. We were due to meet at 11 a.m, and by 10:45 I had already nimbly negotiated a flight of stairs while wearing totteringly high heels, and confidently pulled out a chair at a nearby table. Unfortunately for me, it was only after I had elegantly seated myself that I realised I'd become the unwanted guest at a table already occupied by two, now very confused, pensioners. This is why you arrive early. 15 minutes later, and I became aware of my date moving in on my patch. I sprang to my feet and launched my attack, throwing my arms around him and gabbling about how wonderful it was to meet him at last. I felt him tense and draw away. Worryingly, he didn't seem quite so pleased to meet me at last. The coffee shop assistant, who had now released himself from my unexpected bear hug, cleared the table as fast as he could and retreated back down the stairs. Awkward. Cringing, I drew in another long drag of my perfume, this time wishing it really was Poison, while moaning, "Oh no, kill me now." That is when I hear, "Hi, you must be Fern." And I do what we all do in this situation, assuming other people do get into this situation. "Oh, hello!" So there I was once again, sitting opposite a complete stranger, and I couldn't even tell if he looked anything like his pictures. Online dating had seemed like such a good idea. Dipping my toe in the water, I'd done what most people do when trying to sell themselves. I'd never lied. I'd just left out a detail here or there. Well, to be more precise, one minor detail: the fact that I am blind. I hated not telling them. But what if I did and I was rejected outright? Who would choose damaged goods when there's so much perfection on offer? Would my disability be something my dates could ever accept? More to the point, since I was hiding it, was it something I could accept about myself? Can you relate to that feeling? Do you have something about yourself you can't always accept? There's a lot of advice out there on self-acceptance. Take a look at this, for example. If deep within us we are ever to experience personal fulfillment and peace of mind, we must first rise to the challenge of complete, unqualified self-acceptance. Or, as every wise man and his mother says, no one will accept you until you accept yourself. Well, Isn't it wonderful when you think you've out-psyched the psychologists and out-philosophized the philosophers? I thought I'd done just that. While still struggling to pursue self-acceptance, someone began pursuing me. Again, we'd met online, but unlike all of my one-off dates, this guy had gone in for date 2, and date 3, and date 4. I still remember the lump in my throat, the prickling of tears in my eyes as I explained my sight loss to him, and then the warm, reassuring touch of his hand in mine. Let me be clear. There was no way that I had accepted my disability unconditionally, but somebody else did. What I hadn't realized then was that meeting a man who accepted me was only the beginning. 6 months later, and I was back on the poison. This time, it wasn't for a first date. I had my boyfriend, and I was going to spend the weekend with his family. Over the past 6 months, I'd stopped thinking so much about being blind and started feeling that unconditional self-acceptance was within my grasp. Not because somebody else had accepted me, but because I had begun to accept myself. So, perfumed up and dressed to impress, I chatted excitedly to my boyfriend as we walked to his parents' house, hand in hand, the perfect couple. I must admit, I was feeling rather smug. Then his phone rang. I heard arguing, shouting, and I knew something wasn't right. Terrified, I demanded to know what was going on. That was when he told me the truth. We were outside their house, but they didn't want me in it. Why? They don't want you in there because you can't see. It soon became clear that their house was not the only thing they didn't want me in. They didn't want me in their lives, in their conversations. They didn't want me to exist as far as they were concerned. In other words, I was completely and utterly rejected simply for the fact that I was born blind. No other reason. People often think that must have been the worst thing that has ever happened in my love life. It's far from it. However, I was instantly back to square one, hating the fact I couldn't see, wishing I could be anyone but me. What right did I have to expect other people to accept me when I didn't even do that myself? I was still a million miles off the unconditional self-acceptance I thought I'd been so close to reaching. But while there was an insidious part of me which wondered whether perhaps I deserved this treatment, it was so shocking, so extreme, so blatantly prejudiced that even I knew deep down I was not to blame. The same could not be said for my online dating relationships which followed. I'm sure most of you will have heard of the term ghosting, where someone you thought you were having a good relationship with suddenly and without warning stops communication with you. It can go a little something like this. 15th of October, 10:15 p.m. Looking forward to seeing you at the weekend. I'm free all day Sunday. Want to come to mine? Wink emoji, kiss. 17th of October, 5:30 p.m. Or I could make Saturday. I could come to you if it's easier. Kiss, kiss. 17th of October, 11:45 p.m. I could meet you anywhere, anytime over the weekend. Please let me know. Kiss, kiss, kiss. 25th of October, 1 a.m. If I don't hear from you, I will be forced to assume you have either lost your phone, been taken into hospital, or have hit the peak in the busiest period of your life so far. Kiss, 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 kiss. It seems like a trivial matter, but then why does it hurt us so much? A couple of years later, I thought I had met someone very special. One day we seemed close. The next, silence. And the next. And the next. Being ghosted and completely cut off from someone was far worse for me. This rejection had no reason I knew of, and I had no way of asking, and so I launched a lethal attack on myself. Guilt upon regret, upon rejection, upon heartbreak is a fatal cocktail. It is one I have drunk many times before, and it very nearly killed me more than once. Searching for answers, I devoured dating tips and self-help sites, and the fingers kept pointing right back at me. I was suffering unbearably as a result of someone else's behavior, and yet I was being told it was all my fault. And boy, did I believe it. I convinced myself that no one would ever love me because I didn't love myself. And this time, I convinced myself it was something I could and should have changed. My inability to accept myself had given someone else permission to treat me badly. I was to blame. Psychologists agree that ghosting is the most emotionally damaging way a relationship can end. In fact, according to multiple scientific studies, ghosting activates the same neural pathways in our brain as physical pain. Seeking some form of closure, we are psychologically wired to question and find answers inside ourselves. And you've been there. That's when the soul searching begins. You analyze every reason you can possibly imagine for why you weren't good enough. What you said, what you did, why it was perfectly understandable for the other person to act the way they did, why this was all your fault. Have you ever been told that somebody else's bad behavior was somehow your fault? We've all heard of victim blaming, where someone commits a terrible act and implies in their defense that their victim was asking for it. They deserved to be treated that way. Most of us would agree that that premise is wrong. And yet, a raft of philosophers, psychologists, self-help, and dating gurus feed us a similar message. A message that has endured the years. Dostoevsky said, "If you want to be respected by others, the great thing is to respect yourself. Only by that, only by self-respect, will you compel others to respect you." Or, to put it more succinctly, Taylor Swift said, "Look what you made me do." Slowly but surely, through this drip effect, we start to feel that we are being treated badly as a result of a fault in ourselves. So what is this terrible fault? Of course, we have failed to achieve unconditional self-acceptance. After all, others have no reason to accept us if we don't accept ourselves. Others have no responsibility to treat us with respect if we don't respect ourselves. And ultimately, if we are rejected due to lack of self-respect, that rejection is our fault, and we deserve it. Here's the thing I wish someone had explained to me. Self-acceptance is not the enlightenment we are led to believe it is. We are told that unconditional self-acceptance is the ultimate goal, a transcendent and constant state which, once reached, cannot be lost. But I disagree. Consider this. If you're a parent who has lost a baby, is it wrong to feel a wave of pain when your friend announces that she is pregnant? If you're a child who has lost a parent, is it wrong to cry on a special occasion when you wish they could be there? If you're blind, is it wrong to wish you could see when someone posts on social media that they have passed their driving test? Such things will always find us. We will never completely accept them. Unconditional self-acceptance is unattainable, but that's okay. And that is not a reason for anyone else to treat you with disrespect. Their bad behavior is not your fault. A few years later, I had plucked up the courage to go on another online date. I distinctly remember picking up my perfume and breathing in the heady aroma, but this time, it really did smell like poison to me. It took me straight back to those moments of self-doubt, the constant reminder that I could be instantly broken at any time. Just like me, my perfume stayed on the shelf that day. But that wasn't the only difference. By that point, my guide dog Nancy had come into my life, and she wasn't very good at keeping secrets. Pretending I had full sight wasn't really an option anymore, and so I made the daunting decision to tell my dates up front about my sight. You might think this means I had finally accepted myself, except I also told them how hard it was to share something I struggled with at times. This was when things got interesting. I found that when I was brave enough to share my vulnerabilities, other people did the same. Rather than lose their respect, I gained their trust. It made me realize that while there would always be some people out there who might treat me with disrespect, those people are in the minority, and it is their characters I should be scrutinizing rather than my own. Now I understood that my quest for unconditional self-acceptance is not only unattainable, but also unnecessary in order to achieve personal fulfillment and respect from others. And this is true for each and every one of us. This is not to say that we are destined to spend our lives consumed by our inner demons. But when circumstances encourage those demons to rear their heads, we should not feel as though we have failed and should be thought less of. Today, I am wearing my favorite perfume again. Do you have something in your life which you associate with a situation or an experience you can't always accept? A piece of clothing which reminds you of someone you miss? A special song which makes you think of a lost love? A certain scent which takes you back to a poignant point in your life? If you don't, create one for yourself. Build a strong association with something which will remind you of this important message whenever you need it the most. And then, when those moments of shame, pain, and blame find you, hug it close, turn it up, breathe it in, and know that you do not need unconditional self-acceptance to deserve respect from yourself or anyone else. In those moments, think of me and my perfume. When I breathe in its fruity, spicy combination these days, it still reminds me that I can't see, that I will never drive, and even that one day when I get married, I will not be able to see my fiancé's face at the other end of the aisle. But I am put at ease inside myself. I wear my perfume proudly now because I know it's okay to have something I will never unconditionally accept. I know it's not okay for somebody to lose respect for me because of that. So hug it close, turn it up, breathe it in. What's it going to be for you? What's your poison? Thank you. Thank you.